Namo Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajakacarya Ashtattar Sata Sri Sharma His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Ananta Koti Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, I hope all you are doing well. Today we will be reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 1. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 1. Chapter 9 is dealing with the most confidential knowledge said by Lord Shri Krishna to Arjuna. So today we'll be reading from this chapter. So before we start, let's pray first, then we begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततं जयमुदीरये जय श्रीकृष्णचैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नाम्ने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So let's begin. This is a very important chapter. Please listen very carefully. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 1. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Shri Bhagavanuvacha Idam tu te guhyatamam prabhakshami anasuyabe jnanam vijnanam sohitam yajñatva mokshaya shubhat. Idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshami anashuyave jnana vijnana sohitam yajgatva moksha ashubha. Idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshami anashuyave jnana vijnana sohitam yajgatva mokshaya shubhat. Sri Bhagavan synonyms. Sri Bhagavanuvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Idam, this, too, but, te, unto you, Guhyatamam, the most confidential, Pravakshami, I am speaking, Anasuyabe, to the non-envious, Jnanam, knowledge, Vijnanam, realized knowledge, Sahitam, with, Yat, which, Jnatva, knowing, Moksha, you will be released, Ashubhat, from the miserable material existence. Idam tu te guhyatamam prabhakshyami anasuyave jnana-vijnana-sohitam yajgatva moksha ashubhat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you the most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of material you shall be relieved of this misery of material existence. The Supreme Personality Godhead says, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the misery of material existence. I hope you understood. Purport: As a devotee hear more and more about the Supreme Lord, he become enlightened. The hearing process is recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam. The message of the Supreme Personality Godhead are full of potency, and these potency can be realized if topic regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed among devotee. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculator or academic scholar, for it is realized knowledge. The devotee are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and the sincerity of the particular living entity who is engaged in the Krishna consciousness and give him the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna in the association of devotees. Discussion of Krishna is very important, very potent, and if a fortunate person has such association and try to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement towards the spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his the potent service described in this ninth chapter, matter more confidential than any he has already disclosed. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter is more or less is introduction to the rest of the book. And in the second and third chapter, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topic discussed in the seventh and eighth chapter are specially related to devotional service because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness. They are called more confidential, but the matter which are described in the ninth chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called most confidential. One who is situated the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pang, although he is in the material world. Although he is in the material world. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we will find the Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter that anyone who is engaged in that way is liberated person. Now, this first verse has specific significance. The word idam jnanam, this knowledge, referred to pure devotional service, which consists different activity: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of this nine element of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. When one's heart is thus cleared of the material contamination, one can understand the signs of Krishna. Simply to understand that the living entity is not material is not sufficient. This may be the beginning of the spiritual realization. But one should recognize the difference between the activity of the body and the spiritual activity of, of one who understand that he is not the body. In the seventh chapter, we have already discussed of the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality Godhead, his different energy, the inferior and superior nature, and all this material manifestation. Now in chapter 9, the glory of the Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word anasuyabe in this verse is also very significant. Generally, the commentator, even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead. Even the most erudite scholar write the Bhagavad Gita very inaccurately because they are envious of Krishna. Their commentary are useless. The commentary given by the devotee of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is fool. So such commentary should be very carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is a supreme personality Godhead, the pure transcendental personality, this chapter will be very beneficial. For one who understands that Krishna is a supreme personality Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, this chapter will be very beneficial. So now we concluded the reading of Bhaktivedanta Purport from the Bhagavad Gita. I hope all you have understood. Now let's jump into the insight. We have made a video and audio presentation for you. So and we are attaching both of the presentation with the original video. So please listen till the end. You will get the better understanding. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
All right, in this explainer, we are diving deep into a profound secret. It's a piece of knowledge called the most confidential in one of the world's most ancient spiritual texts, the Bhagavad Gita. This is a promise that was made thousands of years ago, and today we're going to break down exactly what it is and why it still matters so much. But first, let's start with a really big question, something I think we've all wondered about at some point. What if there was a key, a single piece of knowledge that could actually relieve you of all the miseries of life? That's the powerful claim we're exploring today. And this is where that incredible promise comes from. In the text, the Supreme Lord Krishna is speaking directly to his dear friend Arjuna, and he makes this direct promise. He says, "Look, I'm giving you this secret knowledge, and just by knowing it, you will be set free from all of life's troubles." So let's unpack that a little. What does this promise of release actually look like in the real world? Well, the text is super clear that this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. No, it's presented as a practical guarantee, a promise of real liberation, a genuine release from the struggles and difficulties that are just, part of life. Okay, so how do we get this knowledge? Well, it's not something you just get handed on page one. The Bhagavad Gita kind of builds up to it. You can think of it like a hierarchy, or maybe even better, a ladder of knowledge that you have to climb to get to the very, very top. So let's climb this ladder together, step by step. First, you start with the basics, the introduction. Then you move up to what's called confidential knowledge. This is where you start to understand that you're not just your body, you're a spirit soul. From there, it gets more confidential. That's delving into devotional service. And then finally, right at the peak, you get the most confidential knowledge of all. Okay, so we've climbed the ladder, we've gone past the intro, past the confidential stuff, and now we're at the very top. So what is it? What's the big secret? What is this knowledge that promises such a profound transformation? Let's get into it. And here it is. The text calls it idam janam, or this knowledge. And the big secret isn't some abstract theory or a complex riddle. It's actually a practice, pure devotional service. It's something you do, a way you engage with the world and with the divine. And this is what I mean when I say it's a practice. It's not just an idea. The text lays out 9 specific things you can actually do. It's a whole range of activities, from simple things like hearing and chanting, to deeper states like remembering, praying, and ultimately, surrendering everything. This is what that knowledge looks like in action. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. This super powerful, life-changing knowledge, well, it's not just available to anyone who happens to pick up the book. The text is very, very clear that there's one specific, crucial prerequisite you have to meet to truly get it. Right. So you're probably wondering, what is it? What's the qualification? Do you have to be a genius, a great scholar, come from a certain family? Nope. The answer is actually so much simpler and honestly way more profound than any of that. Let's go all the way back to that first verse we looked at. Remember how Krishna addresses Arjuna? He calls him Anasuyave. This one little word, it's the entire key. It means non-envious. That's it. That's the one and only qualification you need to receive this most secret knowledge, a heart that's free from envy. And you can really see the difference this makes when you look at how 2 different people might approach this knowledge. On one side, you have the envious scholar. Even if they're brilliant, the text says their work will be useless, inaccurate. But on the other side, you have the devotee who is non-envious. They can actually assimilate the knowledge by discussing it and really trying to live it. Their attitude is more important than their intellect. So let's bring this all home. How does having a non-envious heart and then practicing this devotional service actually lead to freedom? How does it fulfill that original promise we started with? Get this. The commentary has this absolutely mind-blowing line. It says that if you're sincerely engaged in these practices, you are considered liberated. Not in the future, not after you die, liberated right now, even while you are still living your day-to-day life in the material world. And that's the real takeaway here. The liberation being promised isn't about physically escaping the world. It's a total transformation of your consciousness. It's about having the ability to live in this world without being chained down by its miseries. It's about finding freedom and peace right here, right now. So it all comes down to this, doesn't it? According to this ancient wisdom, the most confidential, life-changing knowledge isn't something you can conquer with your brain alone. It's unlocked with a key. And that key isn't how smart you are, it's how open and non-envious your heart is. It really makes you think, right? Is the deepest knowledge unlocked by intellect, or is it unlocked by attitude?
Now we completed the video presentation. Let's begin with audio podcast.
Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine finding like a spiritual master key, a truth so profound, so guarded. The old texts call it Gya Tamam. That's, the absolute most confidential secret.
Right.
And we're not just talking about some philosophical idea here. This is about knowledge that claims to offer liberation, real liberation from the deepest kinds of suffering, what the text calls the miseries of material existence.
And that really is our mission today. We're zeroing in on the very first verse of the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita.
Chapter 9, okay.
Because this verse, it's presented as the peak. It's where everything gets elevated to its highest, most, esoteric level. So our goal is kind of threefold. Figure out what this knowledge is exactly. Then understand why it's ranked higher, more secret than everything discussed before it. And maybe most importantly, identify the critical prerequisites, what you need to actually receive it.
The stakes feel incredibly high then. And the promise is, well, it's pretty definitive, isn't it? The text says this knowledge. When you get it with realization, jnana vijnana sahita, it guarantees relief. Mukase hufat. You shall be relieved of all that's inauspicious.
It does. It's a huge promise.
Yeah.
And suggests a complete practical fix for, existential dread, really.
Yeah. And who's making this promise? That seems vital too.
Absolutely vital. We're not hearing this from just any sage or philosopher. The source, the Gita itself, points directly to the speaker, Shuddha Bhagavanuvaka, the supreme personality of Godhead.
Okay.
Delivering this essentially private instruction straight to Arjuna. It's framed as a direct, very personal transmission of the ultimate truth.
So let's get that core promise out there. The verse itself, it says, "My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence."
Yeah, and what jumps out immediately there is that pairing, Janam and Vijanam.
Knowledge and realized knowledge.
Exactly. Janam is like the theory, the concept. You can understand it intellectually.
Right.
But this specific knowledge being offered, Idayanam, the text defines it very particularly as pure devotional service.
Ah. Okay, so it's not just any knowledge.
No, and that's why it needs Vijanam, realization, because it's not enough to just nod along intellectually with the idea of devotion. You have to kind of live the relationship, experience it, apply it.
I sometimes think of it like Janam is reading the recipe, but Vijanam is actually tasting the food.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And the text really emphasizes that just, intellectual debate isn't going to get you there.
So why isn't head knowledge enough on its own here?
Well, the commentary suggests that without Vijanam, the realization part, Janam is just sterile. It's dry. So you might understand, okay, I am the eternal soul. That's Janam. But if you don't actually connect with your eternal function, your relationship with the divine force, the realization, then that intellectual fact won't really help you when things get tough.
It won't sustain you.
Right. The difference is application. And the sources say these messages, these teachings, are actually full of potencies.
Potencies.
Yeah, like inherent power. But that power only really activates if the topics are discussed with sincerity. And specifically, it says, amongst devotees, not just academics or, people speculating mentally.
So the environment matters. The company you keep, you can't just think your way into this kind of depth.
Apparently not. It's realized knowledge. It demands a certain humility, a sincerity.
Yeah.
Which actually leads us right into this idea of hierarchy.
Right. This is where it gets really interesting for me. How does this most confidential knowledge stack up against what's already been covered? We need to see the progression, don't we?
We really do. To appreciate why Chapter 9 is the peak, you have to see the climb. The Bhagavad Gita is structured very intentionally, revealing truths in, let's say, increasing layers of intimacy.
Okay.
We can actually map the whole thing out. There are basically 4 ascending levels of secrecy discussed.
Okay, walk us through that. Help us structure that progression. What were the earlier secrets?
Sure. So level 1 is basically the introduction. That's mostly Chapter 1. Setting the scene, Arjuna's dilemma, the battlefield.
The setup. Got it.
Level 2 is what's called confidential knowledge, or Gayam. That's mainly Chapters 2 and 3. This is the foundational spiritual knowledge.
Like what?
Like understanding the soul is eternal, separate from the body. The basics of karma, how to act without being attached to the results, the real groundwork for spiritual life.
Okay, so that's where we get that crucial step. I am not this body. Realizing the self is spirit.
Exactly. Foundational. Then we climb to level 3. More confidential knowledge, Gayatara.
More confidential.
Yeah, that's Chapters 7 and 8. These chapters dive into the nature of the Supreme Being himself, how he interacts with the material world, how you can remember him when you leave your body.
Mm-hmm.
So here, the focus shifts explicitly towards a more personal devotional practice. The goal becomes reaching the divine realm, Kantic consciousness.
Okay, so chapters 7 and 8 are already giving us the map to the divine. Pretty confidential stuff already. So what makes chapter 9 the absolute peak? The Gushatamam. Why is unalloyed pure devotion the ultimate secret?
It's a subtle but profound shift. It moves from the how-to of liberation to the why, from destination to relationships.
Yeah.
Chapter 7 and 8 tell you how to perceive the divine, how to get free.
Yeah.
Chapter 9 focuses on the intimate, reciprocal relationship itself, bhakti, spontaneous, loving service.
The relationship.
Yes. And the reason that gets the Guhyatamam label is because it moves beyond just understanding the nature of spirit, which is general spiritual knowledge, into the actual intimacy of the loving connection with the divine. That's inherently more personal. It's harder to grasp just intellectually. It's knowledge about love, essentially.
That distinction feels really important. It's like moving from studying physics to actually experiencing gravity, maybe, or like you said, theory to relationship, romance almost.
In a spiritual sense, yes.
Yeah.
It's about the heart's connection.
So what does this depth of knowledge, this pure devotion actually do for someone who gets it? What's the practical payoff?
Well, the implication is huge. It fundamentally changes how you experience living in this world. Someone who is really situated in this most confidential knowledge, they become naturally transcendental.
Transcendental, what does that mean day to day?
It doesn't mean they float off the ground.
Right.
It means they still live and act in the material world, but they don't experience the same material pains or anxieties.
Or
The source actually refers to another text, the Bhakti Rasamudanu,
okay.
which says that anyone who has even a sincere desire to offer loving service, just the desire, is already considered liberated, even if they're still dealing with their conditioned situation.
Wow. Just the sincere desire counts as liberated. That's radical.
It is. It emphasizes the power of the internal state, the intention.
So let me ask that practical question again then. What does transcendental look like on a, Monday morning commute? Does the traffic jam just not bother me anymore? Or is it more like I notice the frustration, but it doesn't wreck my whole day?
It's more like the second one, which is realized through the first one eventually. It's not about denying reality, the traffic is still there.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But it's the realization deep down that your real identity, your source of happiness, is totally separate from that external situation. You still do your duties, go to work, whatever. But the results, the traffic jam, the difficult meeting, they can't fundamentally touch your inner self, your soul. Your anchor is somewhere else.
So you become kind of immune to the miseries that usually bind people.
That's the idea.
You
Immune, because your core satisfaction comes from that internal devotional connection, not from external success or failure. And this payoff, this liberation while living, it brings us right back to that non-negotiable requirement we mentioned.
Ah, yes, the prerequisite, mentioned right at the start of the verse, addressed to Arjuna and Asurave, to the non-envious. This feels like the absolute gatekeeper, doesn't it, before you can even start the journey towards the Skiyatamam.
It really is the filter. And the text is quite stark about it. This knowledge is only revealed to the non-envious, period.
Wow.
And the commentary takes it further. It suggests that many scholars, even brilliant ones who spend their lives studying the Gita, might miss the deeper meaning. Why? Because they approach the source of the knowledge of the Supreme Speaker with some level of envy.
Envious. That sounds harsh.
Yeah.
Especially for scholars trying to share wisdom. What does the source mean by envy here? Is it just like disagreeing with the speaker's points?
It's generally seen as deeper than just intellectual disagreement. In this spiritual context, envy often means a reluctance to fully accept the supreme position, the ultimate authority of the speaker, of Kyesa.
Ah, okay.
It can manifest as this subtle, maybe unconscious desire to be the center of yourself, to be the ultimate enjoyer, the controller, or maybe even the ultimate object of worship.
I see.
So when that underlying envy is there, a scholar might try to explain away the speaker's status, reduce him to just a historical figure or a metaphor or a symbol. Anything but the supreme person actually speaking this truth.
So the envy acts like an intellectual or maybe an emotional blinder. It stops you from seeing what's actually being presented.
Exactly. It's like if you tried to learn coding, but you started out convinced you already knew better than the person who invented the language or better than the operating system itself, how far would you get?
Not very far. You'd keep bumping up against your own resistance.
Precisely. The source is suggesting that a certain intellectual humility, this non-enviousness, is the absolute prerequisite for any true mastery, but
Sure.
especially in spiritual science.
That makes sense. Because that intellectual contamination, that envy, it leads to interpretations that the commentary calls, well, inaccurate and ultimately useless.
Useless in terms of actually achieving the goal, the realization. The science of kana, as the text presents it, can't be understood by someone who's busy criticizing the speaker's character without really knowing him. The text even calls such a person a fool.
Ouch. So the takeaway is clear. Your academic credentials mean less than the sincerity of your heart here.
That's the implication. The Lord, the source says, provides the intelligence needed to grasp this science only when it will experience it. He sees the genuine mentality, the sincerity of the person engaging with it.
So sincere association with those who are non-envious and really trying to assimilate it yourself, that's required for progress.
Absolutely. Which explains why Vijnanam, that realization, is so hard to come by. It depends on purifying the heart, not just boosting the brain power. Which brings us neatly to the how, the application.
Right. If the knowledge is pure devotional service, how do you actually purify the heart?
Yes, that's the actionable question, isn't it? What does this mean for you, the listener, trying to live this? It can't stay theoretical once you've, hopefully, passed through that gate of non-enviousness. If Idaijanam is pure devotion, how is it practiced?
What's a map?
The map is laid out very clearly. The path of pure devotional service is practical. It involves 9 specific activities. They're interconnected.
9 activities, okay.
And by practicing these, the idea is one systematically cleanses the heart and elevates their consciousness towards that pure state.
Let's get those 9 down. This is the practical how-to embedded within the most confidential knowledge. What are they?
Okay, the 9 elements or limbs of bhakti, pure devotional service, are
Yeah.
1. Hearing about the Lord, that's Shravakam.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
2. Chanting or glorifying Him, Kirtanam.
Voicing, got it.
3. Remembering Him, Vitusmaranham.
Remembering.
4. Serving His lotus feet, which implies direct personal service, Padasevanam.
Serving.
5. Worshipping the deity form in the temple or home, Arcanam. 6. Praying or offering prayers, Vandanam.
Praying.
7. Obeying His instructions, acting as His servant, Dasyam.
Obeying.
8. Maintaining friendship with Him, Sakyam.
Friendship. Interesting.
And 9. Surrendering everything to Him, full surrender, Atmanivedanam.
Wow, that's comprehensive. It covers a lot of ground from listening to Full Surrender.
Oh, it does.
But for someone just starting out, maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed by 9 things, those first 2, hearing and chanting, they seem pretty foundational, don't they?
Absolutely foundational. They're often called the gateway practices. They establish that vital connection.
Wow.
Well, hearing Shivanam is the act of sincerely taking in the transcendental sound. That could be listening to scripture, attending talks by devotees, hearing kirtan.
Okay, receiving the input.
Exactly. And then chanting, kirtanam, is the act of response, the vocal glorification, speaking or singing the names, qualities, activities of the divine.
So hearing kind of brings the light in, and chanting helps internalize it maybe, make it your own?
That's a good way to put it. The source material really emphasizes that these 2 acts, hearing and chanting, directly start cleaning the dust, the anarthas, from the mirror of the heart. All the contamination we pick up from material life.
Ah, the mirror analogy. Cleaning the mirror of the mind.
Right. So that the true self and the connection to the divine can be reflected clearly. The point is, if you're not consistently doing at least the hearing and chanting, the other 7 practices might just become intellectual exercises or rituals without heart rather than genuine service.
And that clarification feels really necessary because, like we talked about earlier, just intellectually knowing I am not this body, the jhanam from chapters 2 and 3, that isn't enough by itself, is it?
No, that's realizing the foundation exists, but it's not building the house on it.
Right.
It's the continuous active purification of the heart through these practices, especially hearing and chanting, that allows you to actually understand and, more importantly, live this super confidential science of Chapter 9. You use the tools of devotion to maintain that non-envious, purified state needed for the deeper realization, the Vijnanam.
Okay, that brings everything together with real clarity, I think.
Mm.
We started with this alternate secret pure devotional service.
Right.
We saw it's tiered, it's more confidential than even knowing your spirit or general ideas about devotion. We found out the entry ticket, non-negotiable, is non-enviousness.
A critical filter.
And now we have the 9-step map for actually practicing it, for living it.
And what really stands out, I think, is the dynamic here. That purity of intention, the non-enviousness, it isn't just some abstract moral virtue.
No.
It actually enables the clearing of the heart, and that clearing then allows you to receive the higher intelligence needed to really grasp the science of this relationship. It's like a knowledge transfer that depends entirely on sincerity, not on your resume.
A knowledge transfer based on sincerity. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And the final thought the source leaves us with, it's kind of a challenge to how we usually think, especially in our very intellectual world, isn't it?
It really is.
If the deepest, most accurate understanding of this ancient wisdom requires approaching it with devotion, with non-enviousness, well, how might that core requirement change how we think about the difference between just intellectual understanding and truly realized knowledge? Not just in spirituality, but maybe in any field you really want to master.
Yeah. What does non-envious mastery look like everywhere else? A fascinating question.
Something for all of you to think about.